What a game at the Etihad. 1 point each. That is the take that City and Arsenal got from the game at the Etihad. Man City probably surprised at the way Arsenal went about this game. Arsenal, they are yet again showing City that they are not going to be intimidated, never again, because for the second successive season, Arsenal have traveled to the Etihad and come away with the point. This time they could have easily come away with 3 points because with one man down, the fight they put up, that was probably the best tactical game I've seen Arsenal play in a very, very long time. We know they can play the football. We know how technical they are. We know how they pass ball, keep ball, maintain, how they breathe, how they do it at pace. The kind of goals they score after well-worked move. We know that they are very, very good at ball distribution and ball management, really. And we know that each of their individuals can make a pass, can dribble. That is something that is so adept to the Arsenal game, that flair kind of football, a free-flowing game. That's their game. And when it needs to be changed, like they did yesterday, Arsenal can do it. And that's what they proved. Arteta Mikel, full value. I think he's come mature. I think he's now a real coach, building into a world-class coach. Because to take on Guardiola and really cancel him out at every stage, I think it's not a mean feat, even though he was, of course, his protege. But he has learnt a good coaching game, and here, now bring it, everything that he knows, to Mr. Guardiola. What a game we saw, really. Full value. Everything was in that game. Tactics, technical. We saw the individual performances there. We saw resolve. We saw intention there. We saw referee, of course, will already be part of the drama. There was drama again from the referee at some point. And then the individuals, things that came out in this game. What are the lessons that I want to bring up? Because every big game we must be able to look down and analyze and see what is the take, because there are more big games coming through. And some of these teams must watch some of these games so that they know what to do when they face the biggies next. One thing I want to start with, the role of the big players in any team. Every team needs their best player. Don't be fooled. Whether it is Man City or Arsenal, every team needs their best players. For instance, Man City, what was the problem yesterday? Yesterday, they didn't have Kevin De Bruyne from the start. Rodri was taken care of in 20 minutes. He was out of that game. Phil Foden has been very poor at the start of the season and he came in very, very late in that game. So as a game in its entirety, this City side missed their best players, and without that they are forced to bring in Kovacic. We know he'll do the holding role, we know he'll do the defensive role, not so valuable when going forward and not so creative. So there was something there that went out. He was negated. Now when we go to Phil Foden, we know how he is in the final third, anywhere marauding around the box and inside it. His instinct and his instinctive play, his both feet, because he can use them, his dribbles, and the way he just snaps it away, it was missed. Because at the time when Arsenal were 10 early on in the second half, if you had the Foden, on form Foden, those are the games that are tailored for him. But in this case, never a chance. And when he came in later on, of course, Arsenal were already determined to keep strong and to block out everything that was coming their way. And obviously, De Bruyne, what can I say about De Bruyne? The key player, computer, playmaker. He's the guy who thinks outside the box. He has such an array of creative talent that you cannot know what he's going to do. At a time when Arsenal were so dogged and fully packed at the back, a De Bruyne will still find a way. One ball, whether at the start or in the end, or even a goal himself, De Bruyne was needed in that game. Of course he wasn't. What you had was a Jeremy Doku and Bernardo Silva, who sometimes use the ball to themselves. They keep it, they dribble, and they dribble themselves, and they can turn around. That's the problem with Jeremy Doku and Silva. They are very good technical players, but when it comes to knowing when to release or when to make that pass, they have a problem. And with that, you were always going to play in the hands of Arsenal, which is exactly what happened. And for me, it is because Arsenal were very ready to fight City game to game, man to man. They were never going to allow them. So physicality, they equaled. They were equal there. But Trossard, what is that? The lack of game intelligence. I think common sense sometimes must apply. Trossard lacked game intelligence. Now, there is no way you're going to argue that because this was a big game, a second yellow shouldn't be given because it has come at the wrong time. What about you, the player? You've just gone up in the air and gotten involved in a very, for me, I found physical and probably illegal way to win that ball from the air. You remember when he went up and then he had to hit his back against the defender there. So that in itself was a problem. But within seconds, once the ball is down, and then you don't use your common sense, you kick the ball away, which we all know is bookable, because once the referee says ball, put it there, don't touch it. When you touch it, obviously you're not the referee, you are going to be cautioned. So for me, it's not so much about whether it was unfair or not. The law says you do that, it's punishable, and the referee has every right to give you a red card. So for me, it's a big game. It's first half. Why would you do that when you know you already have a card? That was the lack of game intelligence and players like that. Maybe it's the size of the game. It was too big. Trossard, we know, is not so used to play in many of the big games, and having started in this game, maybe it was a surprise. He wanted so much to prove himself that he was here to battle. He deserved his starting place, but by wanting so much to prove so much, he made up a mistake, and then all it went. But maybe football works in mysterious ways. Maybe if they hadn't been 10, that dogged defending and that structured way of playing, maybe we wouldn't have seen it. Maybe if they had been 11 against 11, Arsenal would have been complacent. Maybe the gaps would have been there. And who knows, the way City play, maybe the gaps would have been found. But once they were 10, I've never seen Arsenal play better tactically than they did last night. City could have played the whole day, probably the whole week. They would never have beaten that Arsenal defense. It wasn't about just the defense, it was the entire team, because the way they stood out, the way they positioned themselves, they compacted, and then they filled out. The entire 9 players were in that box, and for the entire second half, City would have done whatever they would have wanted. They wouldn't have got a goal. So where was the problem this time? For City, well, the flowing game, we did see tenets of that in the first half especially. Well, the goal came. Who else? It was always going to be Mr. Haaland scoring, as I've already told you. He is the man second name is goals, 10th goal there coming through. And the way he beat both Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, perhaps that was the disappointing thing, because these two have been so good this season. In that moment, maybe not so good. But once they conceded, once Haaland beat them, because he just ran down through their middle, once he did that, after, they will never put a foot wrong, because from then on, we never saw Haaland again. In the second half, we had no sight of Haaland, thanks to Saliba and Magalhaes. So centre-back pairing, what a brilliant centre-back pairing there. And then the decision to bring on another defender, John Stones, as the game really is about to end, that was a mastery. That was a tactical genial feat. Guardiola knows that Arsenal know who to look out for. They are going to look out for Haaland, for Jeremy, for Silva, and everyone who has a goal threat. So they're going to put men and watch over them. Guardiola knows that. But he remembers that John Stones is a scoring defender who is never going to be the attention of many of the players on the other side. So when you bring him as a defender, maybe the players are not going to realize that it's his goal threat, the reason why you're bringing him on. So when he came on, actually, when he finally scores the goal that levels matters, anyone who has followed John Stones would have known that Guardiola knew exactly what he was doing when everybody was tired. When he realized that he would not change anything from what was going on the pitch, bring somebody who was a secret weapon, and that's the guy who made the difference. So Rodri's absence, guys, you know Rodri. You know he is the man in that field. He controls play, he dictates play, his physicality, his intelligence. We know how he reads the game so well. And we also know that Rodri usually scores goals that make the difference in these big games. He's a big game player. So the way Arsenal came with tactic to cancel him and negate him, that was quite commendable. That was brilliant, because in the end, Arsenal had taken care of Rodri out. Then next, the first Kovacic coming in, he was never going to be so much a threat. Already there was no De Bruyne, and of course there was no Foden. So without those three players, City's best players, Arsenal always had a chance. And yes, they proved that they had a chance. But the lesson there is every team need their best player. At the moment, City are riding on just one player, and that is Haaland. Haaland's goals, Haaland's goals, Haaland's goals, and that's the weakness. Remember, right now in 5 games, City are conceding a goal almost in every game. That's unusual, that's uncharacteristic, and that's a weakness. But for Arsenal as well, what did we see? Well, the key players for Arsenal, now we know for a fact, it has to be Magalhaes, Saliba, and the goalkeeper. What a performance, a momentous performance from that goalkeeper. Really, that guy at the moment, for me, he has to be the best in the league. He is so good. He reminds me of De Gea in terms of his style. He reminds me of De Gea. Really, how do you beat a man when he's on form like that? His instinctive reflexes, the way he stops one-on-ones, the way he reacts to situations, the way he reads the game. Really, he's the player. He's the goalkeeper right now. So for me, Raya, yes, he is the goalkeeper. So Raya, Magalhaes, and Saliba, In centre back, those are the players. And up front, the absence of Martin Odegaard. Did anybody notice that the absence of Odegaard affected Arsenal's attacking game? Saka always, yes, he's again coming up with an assist, assisting Mahrez for that goal. But again, while Saha remains Saha, Saha needs somebody always to remain a threat, for that attack to remain a threat. Who was missing? Odegaard. Odegaard, for me, for the last 3 seasons, is the playmaker for Arsenal, is the creative player for Arsenal, is the man who will pull up the goals from midfield. He is the one who will make that pass. He is the one who will make those late runs in the box and take everybody by surprise. His absence affected Arsenal's attacking play. So we are saying again, I am saying again, that every team needs their best players. Arsenal didn't have Martin Odegaard. It affected their attacking play. Saliba, Mahrez, and Raya right now, that defensive trio is what is helping Arsenal to stand tall and solid at that back. Saka, well, what would they do without Saka? 5 assists now. That's a player you'll need all the way. As a game, it was fantastic for me because the tactics, the technical quality was very good. Then the big players. Anybody wondered before whether Guardiola depends on particular players? I think we've got an answer. Yes, they didn't lose. They were at home. They should have got 3 points. They didn't. And for me, they are not happy to have drawn against Arsenal. You are Man City. You are defending champion. You have the Arsenal. You are leading the table. You are having to win that game. They didn't. And that's the credit I give to Arsenal, because has there a team that has played better in 45 minutes when you are 10 against 11 the way Arsenal did? I watched and I didn't see once, apart from the header where Haaland jumped and actually made the pass himself from a long ball, I don't remember Haaland ever having a sight of goal, even when the possession was all on City's favor. And the shooting and the attempts at goal were all hitting bodies. Not once did we see that ball getting behind that defense. Now that is organization. That is tactical adeptness. That is brilliant from Mikel Arteta. So for me, a tactical game, brilliance there that was shown by Arsenal, but the resolution, the resoluteness, the belief, the faith they had that they can get something from this game is what made the difference. So for me, it was a game that was well worth it, and in the end, they worth the money. 2-2, fantastic game. Congratulations to both teams. For me as a Liverpool fan, of course, I'm celebrating because I gained, the 2 lost after my win, and that's my last word.